Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. Well, I get asked a lot of times, how do you decide what you're going to say in a video talk for the day? And sometimes it's quite easy. You may have noticed I'll do series like different plants in the Bible and what they might mean to me, or different thoughts or emotions or worry or hope or different things that I think people might be going through, or current events. Sometimes I make the decision based upon what people email me. They say, would you please talk about this? Got an email from a lawyer buddy who said, talk about your failures sometime. And so I talked about some of those. I didn't get too specific in legal failures, of which I've got some, because this audience is broader than just lawyers. But I've talked about failures. I've talked about resolutions. Well, sometimes though, I don't really have any directive from others or from myself about what to say. And I thought about, just sometime coming on saying, whoops, sorry, I kicked the stand. I thought about coming on one time and just saying, I don't really have any thoughts today, but I do. I have thoughts every day, and I spend time communing with God, time in His Word and time in prayer every day. And so when I don't have some other specific topic that's just shouting in my brain, what I tend to fall back on are things that impressed me that day in my own quiet time. And that's what I'm going to do, for example, today. So this morning, I was still working my way through this Old Testament prophet named Hosea. And Hosea's got some real interesting stuff to me in Hosea chapter 10. Now, when I read through this, I try to read through it not only as an eye toward what this means to me today in my world, but even more than that, what it meant back in the time. And I've got the benefit of having worked through the Hebrew in this, I think first time in college 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. But now, as I read and work through it, I try and work through it in the Hebrew as well. And so I was really struck by something that I read this morning. I've got it here in front of me. It's in Hosea 10, verse 3, and it says, then they will say, quote, we have no king because we did not revere or honor the Lord. But even if we had a king, what could he do for us? End quote. And then it says, they make many promises. They take false oaths. They make agreements that they don't keep. And it talks about it from that perspective. Now, if you're just reading this along quickly, it's the kind of thing that doesn't make much sense. But if you stop and look at it carefully, it makes all the sense in the world, and then it begins to apply to me and hopefully to you. See, Hosea is talking about the judgment that's going to come upon the people of Israel when the Assyrians come down and they wipe out the king and the government, and they cart the people off and deport them. And the people at that point will say, we have no king. But even if we had one, like, what did he ever do for us? And the reason they're saying this is because if you go back to 1 Samuel 8, when Israel first sought a king, and they asked Samuel to anoint one, and they asked God for one, the reason they wanted a king is they wanted someone who would protect them and look out for them and fight for them and lead their army into battle. That was the responsibility of the king. And so you've got a king who's supposed to be protecting them and leading them in battle and listening to the Lord and modeling the Lord. And their king was of no use to them because he didn't honor the Lord. He talked the talk, but didn't walk the walk. And so they're like, what use was that king? He wasn't protecting us. He didn't help us win the battles. He's just a bunch of empty words, a bunch of hot air. And so I look at that, and it challenges me. Now, I'm not a king. I've never met a king, but I am a person who has people who look to me to provide for them, to protect them. I've got 5 kids. I got a wife. And I can say all the wonderful things in the world I want to say. But if I'm not doing the things that honor God in my life, I'm useless to them. So my thought for the day is that. Do the things that honor God with your life, or you and I will be useless to those we've been called to serve. More video thoughts tomorrow, but that's your video thought for today.